Hello class, it's a new week in our graduate research and design class and and it's great to be here for a new week. It's April 18th and we're going to be learning about preparing a research report. So this week you'll read chapter 21 on preparing a research report and review those slides, and then you'll also take a quiz on chapter 21 by the end of this week. And then, as part of this week, you'll submit your final research proposal. Now remember, you don't actually have to do this research study for this class. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. You can just research, or you can just submit this proposal, and that becomes the end of the research activities that you need to do for this class. But just let me give you some information about that. So take a look. The three areas that are bolded are the new areas. You're going to add a cover page, an abstract, and then data analysis methods. And so the cover page is pretty easy. It just gives your title and so forth. The abstract is pretty easy too. It describes your study in around 100 words or less. And then your data analysis methods, that's the one that's going to take some work. You're going to have to look at that and tell me specifically. If it's a quantitative study, for instance, explain what statistical procedure you're going to use to analyze the data and what process you'll follow. If it's qualitative, the same thing. You're going to have to show what process you're going to follow to analyze the data and go into detail about how you're going to find those themes and coding events and text, and then emerging themes from those codes and how you'll put those all together. So give me an idea of that process. Also, for the other sections that are going to be in this paper under these other sections here, you're going to have to take the feedback that I've already given you and share that feedback, or include that feedback in this assignment. And I just realized there was a little bit of an issue with the way that this is outlined. So the introduction should include purpose and research of studies, statement of research questions, review of related literature, and statement of hypothesis. Then the method section would be the part that has participants, instruments, design, procedures, and then your data analysis methods. So I adjusted that, so be aware of that. Okay, I also wanted to talk about a few other things. This class is about doing the hard work. It's about doing the research. I imagine that most of you feel like this class has been quite a lot of effort, and I can kind of tell that based on some of your comments, as well as just judging the amount of work in this class versus some of my other classes. But really, research is about doing hard work, and only can you change things for the better if you're willing to do the hard work. If you're willing to seek out all the information that you need to find, do the hard work on things to find out what people have tried before, what information, what types of interventions actually work. And that's the only way that you're going to be able to change things for the better, is finding first what other people have done in that same area and then following what they have done to make yours better, so you don't reinvent the wheel. So getting into the literature is really the only way you can be very effective at your job. And so it was good to see your literature reviews. I am kind of hard on you with those. I want you to do a good job with those and focus your literature review on your study in the end. So again, your literature review should start out more general and then get more specific by the end, to where it talks only about those studies that are most related to the proposed research that you want to do. But this is the only way that you can really change things for the better. You need to, let's say you want to do counseling for a certain group, the best way you can do it is to find the literature on counseling for that group, and then go into the literature, figure out exactly how it will help you, and exactly what people have tried, and what has failed, what has worked, and then do your own counseling accordingly based on what you've learned. So literature reviews are hard work, but it's really the only way that we're going to make good changes, positive changes for the better. Another thing that happened last week was that I was at the TIE conference. This is a Technology and Education Conference in Sioux Falls, and there were a lot of great opportunities to parallel that with this class. One of the big things was maker spaces in that conference. They were talking about creating spaces where students can come in and just make things, whether it's a computer, a robot, a cardboard creation, a bridge, whatever it is. And the idea there is that we're trying to build the next Steve Jobs, right? These students are going to learn some creativity, going to be able to be entrepreneurs, and just be able to create. And it gives them a lot of chances to do that with maker spaces. So that was a big thing that they're talking about. One thing that I'm involved with that I wanted to let you know about too is Digital Media Camp. And the website for that is dmcamp.tumblr.com. And so Digital Media Camp is a camp that I run each year. It'll be running May 24th through the 26th at Northern State. And it's for 4th through 6th grade students. And what students do is they come into the camp and they learn to create digital media, whether that's audio productions, video productions, and I think this year we'll do some more makerspace type things, maybe with robotics or computers. And so that's an opportunity, if you haven't heard about that before, to share if you know anyone who might be interested in the camp. But also it's an example of this makerspace concept. But of course, probably the most important thing to our class from the conference that I attended was this study, or this study that you were involved in, that you had a chance to become a part of. And so we did a survey of educational technology in South Dakota. And so I just wanted to share some of my findings as I presented them in that camp as well, to talk about those. So of course the survey you know about, and the follow-up interviews you participated in. Thank you for doing that again. But what did we find? Well, we found that some of the more interesting things I'll point out anyway. We found that, for instance, the interactive whiteboard is the most common technology in classrooms. There's a teacher computer is very common, as well as classroom projectors. We found that outside of the classroom, there are paper printers is the most common one cited. And then, of course, we have laptop computers for all students, classroom clickers, and document cameras as checkout items. As you might have read, I split the districts up between small and large, with 1,500 students being the split point. And with large and small districts, they didn't really differ, statistically speaking, on technology available in the classroom. They had the same technology available, but they were different on technology available in the school, but not always in the classroom. And large districts tended to have more document cameras and classroom clickers available outside the classroom for teachers to check out, whereas small districts had more classroom projectors and tablet computers for all students for checkout. And of course, we also found an important finding that smaller school districts, those are smaller than 1,500 students, have more one-to-one classrooms. That means a classroom where every student has a mobile device to work with all the time. And so you'll find that more, statistically significantly more, in small school districts. Now, for the purpose of this class, I ran these comparisons using ANOVA calculations. So I did analysis of variance to compare students or teachers who responded from small districts versus those who responded from large districts on the existence of mobile devices or one-to-one classrooms. So then I also reported some of these responses that you all helped me gather from the research study. I reported some of these, like, is it going to enhance the learning? And if it's going to enhance the learning, then yes, it's something that we use. So I'm able to talk a little bit more, share a little bit more information about what teachers think about using technology in the classroom and how they respond to those questions that you ask them. Let's see, smaller districts are doing just as well or better than larger districts on access. Access to technology is increasing. If you look at the 2010 survey, and then the current survey has much more technology available to students. But it still isn't, or not to students, to teachers in the classroom. But it is still an issue. Access is still an issue, especially in larger school districts. A little bit on the student-centered learning. Larger school districts are about the same on student-centered learning as smaller school districts from that study. Somebody quoted, "The goal is to help students learn the knowledge using the technology and use it to solve the real problems. Teachers are just on the side to help." And that's an idea it's perpetuated by a lot of teachers, actually. Although some teachers, like this one, had some reluctance of using technology in the classroom. High school students need motivation to use the technology given to them. in the way that it was intended. Between games and things like Facebook, it's hard to let them have complete control. So those were some comments on student versus teacher-centered learning that you helped me gather. And then barriers to technology integration was another section of the survey. And some of the findings from that included that smaller districts in South Dakota have better access to technology. There are fewer websites, for instance, blocked. They have more one-to-one devices in the classrooms. And they also report having better administrative support, meaning that the administration really wants them to use technology in the small districts. And so there are some comments there. They're very progressive. There are grants that we apply for. The school continually upgrades devices throughout the district. I think when we have feedback on our drop-ins or formal observations, that's definitely something they comment on and look for, the use of technology. But in large districts, I found that they have more time to plan and prepare lessons that use technology. So small districts don't have as much time to plan and prepare for it, although they do have more access and administrative support. And again, I use ANOVA calculations for these with a p-value of 0.05 to be significant. So that means that 95%, there's a 95% chance that these findings are not by chance, that they are actually because they are in a small or large district. So using those statistics, right, that we've learned about. So then other factors came out of this study, and we talked about a little bit from some of the quotes again. There is never enough time. I don't care what kind of teacher you are, there is never enough time. And that goes with planning technology lessons from this survey. So conclusions really from the barrier section is that teachers have beliefs consistent with technology use. The administrative support overall is pretty high. Training and support wasn't really a big issue. I thought that might be, but it wasn't too big of an issue. Access is still kind of a barrier, but the most important barrier that keeps teachers from using educational technologies in the classroom is really just time. They need more time to plan and prepare. So that's the most significant barrier. And I make these recommendations that smaller school districts need to give more time for teachers to plan technology-enhanced lessons, because that comes from, again, the research finding that smaller school districts, teachers in smaller school districts report having less time to plan and prepare. And then larger school districts need to provide more access to technology tools and resources, especially in larger classrooms. So access is an issue with the larger school districts. They're blocking things, they don't have enough devices for students, and so forth. Now I recognize that these are easier said than done, but they do seem to make sense based on the data that we've collected over time. So I thought it'd be good to just share these findings and recommendations from our survey from the survey that I implemented and that you helped to collect data for as well in this class. And that's kind of how you present the research results. You know, you can either present them in a presentation, or if you are able to write up the findings as you are doing in your proposal. Of course, a proposal is different than an actual research write-up, but there's a research write-up that I'll share with you too for this study. Actually, I made it into two, that you would present or you submit to a journal and then have people review that proposal who don't know who you are. There are usually two reviewers that review it and then give comments and feedback, make you change things. Maybe that'll happen a couple of times before you can actually publish it. But once they're satisfied with what you've written, then they'll publish it in a research journal. So that's kind of how that works. This week we're learning about preparing a research report, and I actually used some of the information from the chapters from this week to prepare those reports from that survey study. So I do wish you luck this week. Have a good week. Good luck on the final proposal, and make sure again to include the comments that I've given you in the past on your previous work in this final proposal.